This recipe is for cheese, onion, and potato pierogis. I've already peeled my potatoes and cooked them. And a lot of times people will say, well, how many potatoes? Sometimes it's very difficult. And it really, to me, it doesn't matter, because if I have any filling left over, I then use that filling for a potato patty and use it as a fill-in for a meal. So I think right in here I have like 8 medium-sized potatoes. Put pepper. Put salt. My onion, this is 1 onion. I've diced it up. It's not real small because to me, if you make it too small, you just don't get that onion taste. Usually, I put in shredded cheese, but I don't have shredded cheese. So, this is just, and you can use any kind of cheese you want. You can use a sharp, you can use a medium, you can use whatever type of cheese you want.
The flavor will just be a little different.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. Okay. I'm going to start beating potatoes. If you were making mashed potatoes at this time, you would put milk in it. I do not put any type of liquid in until I have these pretty well beat, because maybe I won't need any liquid. You do not want this filling to be moist. You want it to be more dry so that it doesn't interfere with the dough. See how the cheese is melting into the potato? Now I'm going to take the onion, and this was 1 medium onion. The onion. Okay. This is the consistency of your potatoes, and at this time I'm going to show you. We're going to, when we do the filling, it'll probably be about this amount. This is a large teaspoon. So that gives you an idea. Okay. Now we're going to put this aside. It has to be cooled, but by the time we mix our dough and get it all set, this should be cool enough to be able to stuff the dough. All right, now we're ready to make the dough. We have 3 eggs. Into the eggs, we put 8 ounces of sour cream. Now, this has to be mixed very well. This is your liquid. It's mixed very well. I put in a tablespoon of baking powder into 3 cups of regular flour. What I call a pinch of salt. And then you mix it. Now, a little at a time. And when you start out, you always add a little more flour. And we may have to use a little more than 3 cups because I did not have an 8-ounce container of sour cream. I might have added a little more sour cream than what I should have, which would make it a little watery, which means I would have to add a little bit more flour. But we'll see after we get done adding all of this. Okay, so I'm going to just keep stirring and adding. Now, I was using a fork, but when it gets to a certain consistency, I start kneading it. If you notice, I have a little bit of flour left in here, the 3 cups. I'm going to use that on my board. And I'm going to knead that flour into it. It's almost like kneading for bread dough. And it's a smooth feel. I wish you could put your hand in here, but when you're doing it, it's a soft, velvet, smooth feel. That's the way your dough should feel.
Now, if you were doing this with a machine with a bread hook, it would clean the sides of the bowl. Is that?
I don't know.
That's how I do it with bread.
Okay, I've never used a bread hook. See, it's pliable, but it's not sticky. See? Okay, we've floured our countertop or whatever you're going to do your rolling out on. Some people use a pastry cloth. I just do it on my. I cut this in half. I do it in 2 stages. Okay, we've rolled out our dough. You know, nothing is perfect. This time, for some reason, I have a hole right here. So we're going to be very, very careful when we go to cut that we don't use that hole when we're doing our stuffing. This dough is rolled out to about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, what I'm going to do now is cut this. Now, a lot of people use a biscuit cutter. I don't have one, so I use a knife. You know, it's all in what you have handy for yourself. 3 inches?
Okay.
About 3 inches. It all depends. You know, it's in preference. Okay, there's our hole. See it?
Yep.
So I'm going to cut it this way. Okay? I think it's going to be maybe a little bit bigger one. Here's our hole. I'm gonna. It's going to be a little smaller one, but it doesn't matter. If you got a big appetite, you'll eat that one. If you have a small appetite, you'll eat this one. This one here I'm going to make a strip out of. In other words, I'm just going to cook it this way. Strips are good.
You wouldn't just take that and add it to the other half that you're going to roll out?
Oh, I'm just going to make a strip.
Okay.
And then here, I'm going to take it and I'm going to make...
Are they about a square? Are they considered squares that you're
5.
cutting them in, or rectangles? Are they longer than they are wide?
However you want to do it. Because
Okay.
when you use a biscuit cutter, they're going to be round.
Oh, okay.
So
True.
Be creative. Pierogis are made from circle haft.
Okay.
If you were to buy them, okay? It needs a little more dampness. You want to make sure that it is not going to come apart. Now, I'm not
So
going to...
the edges have to be sealed?
Oh, yes, because that's where then you lose your filling. All right, this is the very last one. And it's kind of an odd shape, so I'm kind of pressing it to kind of shape it out. And take a little water, put it around the edges. That's what seals it. Don't put too much, though, just enough to make it damp. And you take your filling, put your filling in. Here's your filling. Take this, slip it over. Now, pull it, pull it, pull it. Shape this in. Pull it, pull it, pull it. You see it? The dampness is holding it. Now, like in anything, we want to be beautiful, even a pierogi. So we'll put this down here.
Now, do you dip the fork?
Yes, the fork was in the water, and it's a little damp. And see, now it has a little bit of a design on it. Ready? Mm-hmm. Now, there's the finished product, and there are 30 pierogis. You put them on the towel, so first of all, it doesn't stick to the counter. But what you want to do is you're making them. Each one you put in, you make sure that they're covered, because dough has a tendency to dry and have a crust, and you don't want to have them to have a crust on them.
Okay.
So, now the water is boiling, and we have salt in the water, and what we're going to do now is drop them in, and it's like the noodles. You don't stir, you just lovingly turn them.
Okay.
Now, you can freeze these. And if you freeze them, what you do after you have drained them, you put them on a cookie sheet separately, stick them in the freezer. And when they're frozen, you can then put them in a package. And they won't stick, and then you can keep them frozen. And if you are by yourself, you can take out like 4 at a time and have them. And then I'll tell you what and after they're done cooking, what we do is we melt butter, saute onion, pour it over the top, and put sour cream over the top of those. If it's Polish, it's fattening. So, this is cooking. Not quite yet. Okay, the water is boiling, so we're going to just give them a bath. Now, we've put in so many, let's make sure they're not sticking to the bottom. You have to be very careful with these, because if you disturb them too much, they could fall apart. You do not want the, and as you're putting them in, check to make sure that they are completely
Sealed on the edges?
Yeah, see, these are good. See how they're raising already?
The water's cooling.
Yeah, no, you don't have to wait.
No, okay, you don't have to wait for it to come back to a boil.
No, just make sure you get them all in.
Now, is there can you put too many in the pot?
No. That's why usually, this is a small batch. Usually it takes me all day if I'm going to make 150 of these. It isn't a lot of work making the filling or making the dough. The process of putting it together and cooking them is what takes up your time.
So for a pot,
but it's done with love.
A pot this size is easily going to hold all 30 of these.
Oh, they'll hold probably 60.
Oh, okay. A pot this size would hold 60.
Yeah.
You would have much more water in it.
Yes.
It would be deeper, but
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll see, once I put 30 of them in here, you'll see why 60, it would hold 60. But it was rolled out.
remember we had a hole.
Yeah. So we just made a strip, and what we do is we just put them in here. And don't waste any of the dough. And here we go. And they're on high, but we have to let them cook now. And they'll cook for, probably about 10 to 15 minutes. A lot of it has to do with how large you've made the pierogi.
Okay. Now, the 10 to 15 minutes starts after it comes back to a rolling boil.
Look, they're already to the top. So that tells you that there has been some cooking done, because it's like a noodle. It comes to the top when it has had some, and see how they're shiny?
Yes.
That tells you that it still has to be cooked some more.
Now, you don't have to cook the stuffing, you're just cooking the dough on the outside.
Exactly. That's all you're doing. You're cooking the noodle dough.
So we're going to come back to this in about 10 or 15 minutes?
Right.
Okay.
Once they start boiling like this, turn the temperature down to, probably 4 or 5, like a low medium. And do not stir, just roll. And try to keep, see how it's rolling the water? That's the type of water temperature you want to keep for the noodles.
So you want the rolling boil.
And so, you have to stand here and watch it every once in a while.
Because you don't want it to froth up and boil over.
Exactly. Then you got a mess. The noodles are now cooked. And what we're going to do is we're going to drain them. So get out your colander, put it in the sink. Be very careful so they don't fall apart. Oh, we did have a couple. They fell apart. But they do that. That's okay.
Do we rinse them with
No.
cold water?
Nope. Now, if we were going to eat them right away, we would have the butter and the onion completely ready for them. And we would pour it over the top and then serve it. But because we're going to be taking these with us, and we don't want them to stick, what I'm going to do is very slowly, I'm going to put them in this butter and roll them. Let's see if I can.
Before you actually serve them, would you brown them?
No, I don't. No, I don't. You can if you want to. Some people do. It all depends. It's all to taste. I just take, these would be on a big platter, and what onion and butter that I had in here, I would just saute it over the top of it, serve it that way. People then would take the pierogi, take a little bit of that butter and onion, put it over the top, and then put their sour cream over the top of it. Hope you enjoy your pierogis.